Welcome to those joining us or watching later on YouTube, and for those on Facebook Live. We're so glad you're here with us at the Center for Spiritual Living in Tulsa. We just heard a beautiful song, and Chris, thank you for sharing the story of your friend Michael. To know that there's so much complexity in our lives sometimes, right? And people come and grace us with their presence, some by raining sunshine and moonbeams on us, which it sounds like Michael did. And then they may disappoint us, which you didn't share disappointment, you just shared something that happened, right?
Yeah, he knew it was stupid as soon as he did it.
Yeah.
And now he's spending 10 years. Oh, that's ridiculous.
And he's got a friend.
Oh, he's got a friend. He's got lots of
He's
friends.
got lots of friends. So
Carol's a friend. They're friends.
yeah, so what we know is that unfolding, that experience of this month's theme of the light, the light and the shadow. And today's talk title is Lights, Camera, Action. Right? It's about stepping into, we can stay in our shadow and be a grayed out expression of ourselves, or we can step more boldly into the light by letting our light shine out into the world. And the start this talk is about we have to show up in order to engage, in order to participate in life. What roles are we playing? Can we make our performance genuine, honest, and authentic? Or is it all for show because we're filming? Marguerite knows about filming, right? Authenticity makes it so powerful. If we don't take center stage and be the star of our own performance, then we give silent permission for others to decide the details of our film and the destiny of our life. Some may want to live in the dress rehearsal without moving on to the real thing because we're afraid of messing up, we're drawing too much attention to ourselves, we're being too bold and living too out loud, which we're practicing all month. Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was, a key influence, his writings on Ernest Holmes said, "Do not be too timid and squeamish about your actions. All of life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better." I love that, right? Try this, it's an experiment, works great, woohoo. Try this, I stub my toe, I fall on my face, woohoo. Great experiment, right? Great opportunity. So last week we talked about how wholeness embraces all aspects of the truth, the light and the shadow. This week we'll add to the idea that we have choice in everything that we do. Are we willing to show up, take center stage, and add our light to the production? If so, then we take responsibility and accountability for our own role, for our preparedness, for our readiness to take center stage and play full out, right? Marguerite's shaking her head. She's a producer, she's a writer, she's a creator. And part of that comes with being prepared, right? To be ready to shine that light in a beautiful way. So a few questions to start out with. Are we willing to bring what we have so we can grow, develop, and dig even deeper? Are we willing to? It's up to us to really look at that. Look at what we bring and give quality to our offerings in the world. Is it the best we have to offer, or are we holding ourselves back in some way? Are we willing to receive feedback so that we can improve our performance or how the way we show up in the world? Or do we take feedback personally, or perhaps oversensitively, or to be, devastated or down by it? Boy, that is one of those things. And a lesson to learn, like to be willing to give and receive feedback in the way we're showing up in the world, I think is really powerful. I'm coming back to Marguerite as an example, thank you. But when you go on YouTube, when this talk is shared on YouTube, there's a place for comments. Talk about putting ourselves out there in the world, and to be willing to, not own the feedback that we get when we put out in the world, but to be willing to know that it's given in a way that's to be productive. And if it's not, we can say bye. But there's so much good to be willing to listen. Then, do we allow ourselves to benefit from the experience and incorporate those lessons learned from the stubbed toes into our next attempt, so that we can glean wisdom along the way to have a brighter expression of our lives out of the shadow? And finally, do we forgive ourselves for not doing better, and even applaud ourselves for the efforts for even trying, for stepping out into the world in beautiful ways, to stay open to striving to be the best? These questions can help us not only engage and participate deeply in life, but also know that we are shining no matter what the circumstances. I can think for a moment about the ways that this is played out. It plays out in our lives, in our work, in our relationships, our engagement with other people, in our health, in our relationships with money. Are we willing to put ourselves out there in the light? Are we prepared? Have we taken a deep breath, done our spiritual work to move out into the world? And have we followed our gut instincts and intuitions on the things that we say yes to? Now, speaking of saying yes to things, welcome back, Brad.
Yes. Yeah.
So Brad, our practitioner in training, practitioner to be, spent a month over in Eastern Europe. And I'd like to have Brad share a little bit about his experience, but I want to show Brad a lot of grace. Have you ever been away somewhere at a retreat or in an immersion and then come back to the current life?
Oh, yeah.
There's a process of reentry. Stepping out into the light, feet landing back on the ground with time changes and people speaking different languages. So we give Brad some grace, but we'd love to hear a little bit about your experience, whatever you'd like to share. Welcome back, Brad. We love you.
Thank you, Reverend Jeff. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Well, first I want to say thank you very much to everyone at Tulsa CSL for supporting me on the trip financially and all that. I know you passed the hat before I left, and so I deeply appreciate that. So I was in Poland, and some of you may or may not know already if you follow me on Facebook. I actually went to Ukraine also. This time last week, I was telling Reverend Jeff I was in Ukraine. I went to the western city of Lviv. I know Otis, he's not here right now, but if he was, he knows about that city. But people ask me, the most common question, well, why did you go and why Poland? And it's funny to tell you a little bit of the backstory. Never in a million years did I imagine I would go to Europe, Eastern Europe or Poland. And this is what happened, we say in Science of Mind, when you let go and let God. If you look on my vision board that I have at home, I have Peru, Machu Picchu, I have Africa and like the safari, and then I have South Africa doing a shark dive. Nowhere on that board was Poland, not at all. And so you can tell the difference between trying to think of a plan for your life versus letting go and let God plan your life. And 7 weeks ago, I had absolutely no idea that I was going to go to Poland, and 2 weeks ago, I didn't know I was going to go to Ukraine. It just kind of happened that way. But when the war broke out, I can't explain it, but something came over me that, like most people, we wanted to help. And I wanted to do something to help. And the way the law works, the universe, is same as how I discovered Tulsa CSL. I just opened my Facebook one day, and there was this agency called All Hands and Hearts, and it said Ukraine Crisis Relief Program in Poland. And I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. So I just literally, I pushed save and saved it to my files. And that was, I remember it was July of 2022, so almost a year ago. Never gave it a second thought. Never actually thought I'm gonna go there, that I'm gonna do this program for however many, like I said, on my vision board is Machu Picchu. You know, it's like, and even jumping ahead of the story a little bit, when I bought my ticket, I'm like, why am I buying this, not Machu Picchu? So anyway, I had no idea. It just, I saved it, and then it was the first week of April, I had a dream. And God put something in my heart that says, go to Poland. And I'm like, I don't really have time. I don't have money. I don't really have anything. I need to build my business here at home. And this is what happens when you let go and let God.
Yes.
I trusted God and I filled out the application. It's a volunteer application, and it was a pretty quick turnaround. About 24 hours, I was accepted and went through the background check. Everything's automatic now online. So I went through the background check. And I literally said, okay, God, I'm not convinced. I want you to show me a sign. And that very next day, Kim spoke here. And Kim said something that I just went, whoa. Kim gave an example from your life, something to do with a magazine, if that sounds familiar, and selling stock and things like that. And I went, wow, that's trusting, just letting go. Doesn't, just because you let go doesn't always mean it's going to work out exactly as you think it will either. That's a big part of the puzzle. So I heard that, I still wasn't convinced. And then next week, Chris spoke. And Chris, you said in your talk, I remembered exactly, somehow you don't have to worry about the money will show up. You remember saying that? Yeah. And that did it. And so that next morning, I whipped out my credit card and I bought my ticket. And I thought, holy, I'm doing this. I mean, this was 5 weeks ago. You know, welcome, come on in. And then I'm getting on the plane. It's like, why am I doing this? You know, my heart is there, but Poland, I've never, you know, I haven't traveled internationally in 20 years. Poland, I know nothing about, you know, Europe, Eastern Europe, no clue. I didn't realize how close it was to Ukraine, also the border there, and how easily it was to just get on a train and go there. But doing the outreach programs I've had and everything like that is, as soon as I got there, I understood what God's purpose for me being there was to broaden my horizons, to understand outreach more on an international level, and how can I support what's going on from a CSL perspective and all that. So it was an absolutely amazing journey. I've been back for 2 days. This is my third full day back in country, so yeah, I'm still a little blurry-eyed with jet lag and everything. But when you trust and let go, I can't even describe the experience. It was beyond incredible. Poland, Ukraine are my new BFFs, I like to say. Working alongside the Polish, just everyday citizens like you who stepped up because they care. Some of the projects I worked on, it was all a lot of construction related work, restoring old buildings around Krakow, which I'm not saying correctly at all. The locals they pick up on my American accent. I cannot, Polish is the most difficult language I've ever tried to learn. But anyway, one of the buildings we were restoring and we finished it, right there at the end was, restoring to elementary school for Ukrainian children to go to school again, just in their language and their culture. Another one was a refugee/community center, again, where the Ukrainians could go to find peace and solace. And it was surreal at one of the project sites I went to, and I guess I hope I don't take too much time. Sorry, but nobody wants to be a refugee. That's like the furthest thing from anybody's mind. And to go there that first morning and see the line, I mean, there must have been 50, 100 people waiting for the doors to open. So the top was, we had restored to be the elementary school. The bottom was what we would call in America like a Goodwill plus all like a secondhand store plus grocery store plus medical, kind of all three of those wrapped. And this was just started by two Polish women that wanted to help.
Wow.
A year ago, they had no clue that they would be running an NGO. And now not only were they running an NGO, but money was coming in and resources were coming in, and but I still, it's blazing in my mind to see all those people there, and it was 90% women, lots of women with their children. So assuming their husbands were over there fighting right now, some older men too, in their 70s and 80s. But it was just powerful. And then she had part of the other side of the building was just completely like 5 times the size of this room from, the floor all the way to the top was stacked with just supplies, food, school supplies, everything you name it. And then once a day, two 15-passenger vans would pull up and all the seats were taken out and we would load up the vans, 10, 20, 50-pound boxes, just putting in all the supplies and everything. And then and I have some pictures, they're on my Facebook, or I haven't put them all on there, but they would drive these supplies into Ukraine, sometimes into the heart of the most dangerous areas. I stayed more on the west where it was safer, but it was just all surreal. And then one of the other another project I worked on, we were refurbishing another old building to be a food bank, and they call it a soup kitchen. And it was so funny because on that project, I worked on that project for about 4 days. I was working with some British. We had people in this group. We were from Britain, Germany, France, Spain, South Africa, Chile, 6, 7 United States. There were several Americans there also. But I was working with these two British people, and I don't speak British English at all. And just to give you an example, he's like, look, 10 millimeters off that board, Brad. I'm like, what? He's like, cut 2.5 inches. Oh, that I understand. And it's like, he's like, lot 15, and I'm trying to 15 millimeter, what, because they use millimeters. And so it was, I learned a lot of new British words. So at the end of the day, they'd say, I'm smashed, Brad. It's like, okay, so in American English, that means I'm pooped, I'm tired, I'm worn out. So in British English, you say, I'm smashed. That would kind of mean like you're drunk or something in America. But in British English, it means you're tired, you're wiped out. So at the end of the day, I was smashed. And at the end of the program, I was smashed. But I would say kind of moral of the story is don't worry about time, don't worry about money, don't worry about resources, don't worry about age, just whatever's in your heart. Um, I, I mean, many things made me go, but ultimately one of the things too, I was like, if I'm looking back on my life, regardless of what age you are, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, am I going to regret not having gone? Am I going to regret not having whipped out my credit card? And the answer was overwhelmingly yes. And I mean, it's priceless what I got out of the trip. I mean, I'll just tell you the whole trip with the ticket, the insurance, that was $13.50. And then the advantage of being with this program is food and board was covered for 3 weeks. It's only when I kind of took off on my own as a tourist that I spent another $300-400. I got some nice hotels and some stuff like that. But I want to give a shout out for all those watching online too, the people of Poland. Just sorry, they were incredible hosts. The country, incredibly beautiful. I mean, there were so many different. Poland is a combination like where I was, Krakow, of medieval Europe. The knights and the castles, and I saw the moat and the old fortress guarding the old city and the cobblestone roads and the balconies. But for me, I'd never been to Europe, but I'd only seen about like in movies and stuff. And one of my Polish companions goes, "You mean those Walt Disney movies?" I'm like, "Yeah, those." So, but Poland is a very modern country. Also, it's very much it has a bad stereotype of being like second or third world, but it's not. People there are extremely educated. Everybody speaks fluent English. They're just shy to speak English. And so I would speak really bad Polish, and they're like, okay, he's American. I'll speak English with him. So it took me a week to learn to say dziękuję bardzo, which means thank you very much. I don't even ask me to spell it. they have so many values. I'll just share one of the really neat things about Poland. When I first got there, nothing was cut, like the lawns and at the parks, the hotels, the village that we were in, like nothing was cut, like the grass was this high and the flowers were blooming and everything like that. And Poland is a very environmental friendly country. They're really into conservation and ecology. You could go anywhere and there's recycling bins everywhere, like all through the old city, all anywhere through the new city, paper, plastic, glass, all that. And people actually put the right thing in the right container. Very different what we do in America. People will just throw their trash in the plastic or whatever. They don't do that there. I mean, it's very orderly and it stays that way. But they have this conservation that the whole country follows. It's crazy. They don't cut the lawn. And the reason is because the wildflowers bloom. And so that everything grows so that the wildflowers can bloom and then seed so that they can continue to grow. And it was just so beautiful. And when, of course, as an American, the first thing I thought when I saw it, I was like, well, this is dumb. Why don't they cut their grass? And then, but once you learn the purpose behind it, it was just incredible, just beautiful. To my hosts in Poland, thank you. Yeah, it was incredible. So like I said, don't worry about time, don't worry about money, don't worry about age, don't worry about physical limitations or lack thereof or whatnot. I mean, I haven't done construction related work in a while. And like we're hanging drywall, if you've done that stuff's heavy. Pounding nails, sand, and we didn't have all the modern day tools. And so when we were restoring the floor, we didn't have a electric, so we're down with our, hands and a scraper doing it that way. So it makes you appreciate power tools a lot more. But it was incredible. So yeah, the moral of the story is just, follow your heart. You don't have to know what's happening or why it's happening, but if God puts something in your heart, just listen and forget about it. Drown out all the noise that's up here, because this is going to say, no, I can't do it. I'm afraid. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. And had I not gone, I would have regretted it forever. And I told Reverend Jeff, and we'll get caught up, and I'll get caught up with the board and all that, and we'll have more stuff coming at you. But we did this really, really neat auction fundraiser. So we're going to do a little spin on auction, and you'll see what that's about. But we raised, I don't know, $500-600 for one of the nonprofits there in a matter of like an hour. I mean, it was so fun. So very, very simple, very minimal planning. These are the kind of fundraisers you like, very little planning and a lot of return.
A lot of fun.
On your investments. So, but thank you to everyone who supported me. And yeah, gave me the time away. And my sister who watched my dog Jackie in my house while I was gone. It takes a village to build a community. I always say that. And so thank you, y'all. Oh, sorry. Gave me a huge opportunity to follow my dreams and my passions. So, sorry, international. So there'll be much more to come. So thank you for that, Reverend Jeff. We'll reach out.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. And boy, I could feel it. Y'all feel that a little bit? What really, there's so much to take away from what you shared that's relevant to this month. But especially this sense of two or three Polish women who found themselves, now leading a non-government, operation, taking resources in simply to help people. And, that means they said yes, right? They said yes to being on the center stage, leaving who knows what, was in their lives. And there are countless and countless examples of that, whether it's in Europe, in Poland, in Ukraine, or whether it's right here in the city of Tulsa with people who are making a shift and showing up in a way to support those people in their lives. I think one thing here to say is that we are in so many ways at a great turning point in the world. And it probably people said it 30 years and 50 years and 100 years ago. But like there is so much happening today in terms of people, like Brad was shining his light, being an energy person who understands teachings in this way. And somehow showed up at Centers for Spiritual Living, and then somehow as a practitioner being able to show up in that part of the world, shining that light. We see so much conflict and division, and so I've heard so many of us say that part of that unfolding is this is part of the great turning point and the great awakening. That behind anything that looks other than good, it has to be unfolding for good. Because underneath it all is love. Underneath all of it is intelligence and wisdom. And I know it's God having its experience in things that look not godlike, and also in reaction to the primordial collective consciousness soup of all of the ideas that we as human beings walking this planet are putting into the creative medium. So with that said, when we move into a place of sharing from a grounded place of love, and knowing that vibration, and do our best to turn away from those real sense of conflict, then we help support that vibrational uplifting on the planet. Ernest Holmes said, if you think of life as flowing through your every action, you will soon discover that the things you give your attention to are quickened with new energy. Those things that we give our attention to are quickened with new energy. Brad could have said, I'm scared, I don't want to do this, there's not enough, da 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 da. And while those thoughts may have flickered through, there were the signs that said, stand center stage, say yes to this, and be awakened and aware to unlimited new possibilities that have yet to trickle, that are still trickling out of your experience in the way you touch these beautiful people and the way that they touched you. So all of this energy work is what's needed as we stand right for the change on center stage. So lights, camera, action, let it rip, rock and roll. So I'm going to move into prayer for just a moment here. And thank you, Brad, for stepping right into that perfect sharing. There is but one power in this world. So I'm going to close my eyes and let the sense of oneness come over me. Knowing the truth that there is that one power, one light that is expressing in so many powerful, magnificent ways through each person here today. And through each of the so many people on our planet. So in our own little way right now, I know that as we shift our consciousness to a place of uplifting our energy level, of acknowledging the shadows and the dark sides that move through our experience, blessing them for the gifts they give us, and then moving on to knowing that there's so much good happening in our world. There's so much good happening in our lives. And for that, we can shower ourselves with gratitude. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you. I give thanks. I'm so grateful for all of this and more. So I let this word of prayer go. Just release it, just shaking it off with a blessing for all that is. I let it be. And so it is.
No, it is.
Amen.